Good morning. Hello, joyful joints. I am so happy to be here. And I'm happy to have those of you that are able to make it live. I am so happy to see you. After missing last week, I was away on a trip, and it was fascinating that the powers that be, the technical powers, decided we were not going to even record a class last week from our destination. So whatever that was about, welcome here today, and I hope you were able to go back and try out some of our old classes, some of the previous classes. You know, Joyful Joints is not something that's new every single week. In fact, it's extremely repetitive, because what we want to know is we have these basic things that our body needs. Our lungs breathe every single day. That doesn't change. Air is important. You got to breathe. We need to put food and nutrition in our body. That doesn't change. Joyful Joints is designed to be the movement that our body needs every single day that will help us to function optimally. And without some of this movement, it becomes very challenging. So repeating, and saying hello, and just loving all of you guys. Today is one of those days where a lot of information is in my head, and I'm wanting to share so much of it, but we're going to try to pack it down. This month, this is month number 6, we are working on having our foundation built so strong. This month's theme is about creating ourselves, not finding ourselves, but being able to constantly create who we want to be and how we want to be. And it is in that creation, the flip side of that coin is destruction. Things have to be broken down sometimes in order for us to either recreate or to continue creating. Yes, and hello again to all of our live viewers. It's so exciting, and I can feel your energy coming through. So thank you for being here. It just so happens that in this concept of creating, we want to, what do you have to do before you build a building? Gather up the materials. You want quality materials, you want enough of them, you want to have everything ready to go, so when the building begins, it's very easy. It just happens to be coming up into springtime in that time of year. So what's happening beneath the surface is all of the plants, the bulbs are starting to prepare. They're gathering up enough energy, enough nutrients, so that when it's time to build, those plants are going to come up out of the ground, and they're going to build the most beautiful flowers possible. And then in the fall, it'll all go down, it gets destroyed, so we can recreate. This is a process that nature shows us. It's also a process that we want to use in our own bodies, constantly creating and allowing destruction to happen, not always being so upset when there's something destructive that happens, and then maybe we can turn that into an opportunity. Gosh, this thing happened to me. For example, how many of you out there have ever had a joint replacement, a hip, a knee? It happens. Instead of going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I wore that out, how about, wow, isn't it cool that there's this opportunity for me to get a replacement part? And as I do that, I have an opportunity to rebuild my body's firm foundation so that I can move in a way that is better for me, that is more constructive than destructive. So that's where we're coming from. We're working on the lower torso, which is the pelvis. That's the bowl of bones that we call the pelvis, and our hips. So the leg bone actually has a ball at the top, and it fits into the socket part of the pelvis, and that is how we move about. And as we've talked, we need a stability in order for us to have mobility, right? So we're going to practice standing, some stability. And I have brought out today a couple of toys, a couple of different things. You know, one of the things we get in trouble with is we think that we're always going to be standing on firm ground. But guess what? The law of change, the law of cycles, we won't always have firm footing. So what I'm showing you here, this is what we call a balance pad. It's a foam 2-inch pad. You can find them anywhere. And it's a really lovely way to practice being on different surfaces, so that in the event that we come across a different surface, we can handle it, right? We're not always going to be on something solid. So if you have one of these, those of you who've been with me for a while, let's pull out our balance pad. If you don't, maybe you're going to get one and you'll practice this class again sometime. So if you were to step up onto this squishy thing, and you're going to notice, what does it feel like? If you don't have a balance pad, you could always go grab a nice pillow, put that on the floor, and just practice having something more squishy under your feet. How does that feel? For some of us, just stepping up on here is going to be a little discombobulating. We've spent a lot of time on a specific surface that we're familiar. So we're going to try to find stability in a space that's unfamiliar. And one way we can find out how are we doing actually with our solid foundation is to bring our feet all the way together. You can also do this on firm footing, and you may also hold on to something for safety. Yes, very good. With your feet all the way together, that means they're actually touching. And then if you didn't fall over yet, or if you're not feeling too wobbly, you're still feeling fine, you may close your eyes. Try closing your eyes and trying to relax yourself and just notice how much wobbliness is there. So you're going to see me wobbling on the camera because that's what we want. We want to know, will I wobble within a margin of error? That means I'm not going to fall over. Or are my wobbles going to take me outside? Is my body going to respond soon enough to put me back on balance? So as I close my eyes, yes, there's wobbles, but my body is recovering back to the center. So there is plenty of stability, allowing this slight mobility to happen within a safe realm. Okay? That's quite a big concept. I told you I have a lot going in my head today. So what we're going to do is we're going to come and we're going to practice some different ways of moving our hips with our pelvis, okay? So take your feet nice and wide. Great, so I've got this chair in front of me for stability. How about I'll put it out of the way so you can see what I'm doing, but you could have your hands resting on that chair. And with our legs, feet nice and wide, I want you to touch. So I've got one of my hips here, one of my hips here. When I look in the camera, I can see that one is higher than the other. Interesting. So I'm kind of standing off balance as I watch myself. So just push those bones from side to side. Now this is with straight legs. The knees are straight. We're just finding some mobility in our hips. I'm pushing my hips to one side and then the other while my knees stay straight, okay? What I'm not doing is trying to hike up one side and then the other. This is what we might do on the dance floor. It's kind of similar, but I'm putting my focus on lifting one side and then lifting the other of my pelvis. What if I try to maintain that more level and just push myself from side to side? It requires my feet pushing on the floor, and it might feel a little bit different to you. Yes? Okay. So that's side to side with legs straight. Now bend your knees. Bend your knees. Yes. So I'm kind of like sitting part way down, and let's do the same thing. These hip bones here, this is my waist. I slide down to find where that ball and socket joint is, and I push it from side to side here. Push it from side to side here. Very good. Now, some of you are already going, oh man, I can't stand with my knees bent that much. It's okay, take breaks, jiggle them out, maybe don't bend as low. But we want to find the difference. Now, do this with that lifting of each side. Notice how this becomes a waist exercise. Maybe even some of you are feeling that in your back. Good. But let's now just go without that lift. How do I move my thigh bones from side to side? Super. Excellent. At the same time, maybe we want to make sure our navel is drawn back and sitting over the top of our pelvis. Okay, very good. Shake that out. Shake out your legs. Now, this is when we can go, all right, how did that affect my stability? So let's come back to our test. If you did it on the floor, so do exactly how you did before. Once you get a balance pad, you can try it here. We have our feet together and we close our eyes and we notice, are we more stable or less stable? And either one is a fine answer. Some of you might be less stable. This is something I want you guys to understand. When our pelvis is unstable, okay? So I guess this is more of a teaching class than a practice class. I don't know. If your pelvis is less stable, like the bones of your pelvis just kind of wiggle around each other or whatever, they're not holding still. That's usually when you're told you don't have a very strong core. We need to work on our core, but we're talking about pelvic stability. That means that my hips, that ball and socket joint, is actually going to lock down and become the stabilizing factor. Do you understand that? My pelvis is unstable. Something's got to hold me still. So my hip locks down. And now I have what we call very, very tight hips. Okay? Which might mean that when you are testing here, if your hips are completely locked down, then when you close your eyes the first time, you might notice, well, I'm wobbling, but I'm wobbling not in my hip area. Or you might be really actually super stable because you're all locked in. Okay? When I lock this in, I'm noticing I get a lot of shifting in my feet. My feet are having to work extra hard because my hips are not participating. So then we come back, we do an exercise where we start to mobilize the hips. The pelvis starts to become our stability center. Notice I say starts. So when I come back now, my hips are more free. As I close my eyes, I might start to feel like I'm wobbling more, but it's because I've unlocked my hips. Okay, now, how are you going to know that at home? Good question. We might need to have like a let's get together and figure it out together. But I want you to be aware that moving more and moving less, either one is good because you've produced a change. Okay, so sometimes wobbling more is going to be a positive result. Okay, that's all we're at. Let's move on. So next direction that we're going to try to move this pelvis is forward and back. So I'm going to turn to the side and we're going to start with our legs straight. And I want you to just kind of send your thigh bones forward and then send your thigh bones back. Now, what you're going to notice is my upper body is shifting. It's compensating so I don't fall down. Okay? This should be a focus on moving your legs forward and backward, not arching your back and leaning forward. Do you see the difference? I can bend back and bend forward without actually moving my legs at all. And that becomes a back thing. That's not what we're doing. Stabilize your navel. Push your legs forward. Push your legs backward. Very good. Forward and backward. Good. 2 more. Forward. This is a hard class. I think we need to put a tag on this class today. It's rather advanced. It's also very important because I'm pretty sure most of you out there like to go out for walks. Maybe you are obsessed with getting your 10,000 steps. Guess what? If you're out there getting 10,000 steps with a wonky pelvis that doesn't hold still, we're destroying things. We're in the destruction mode. Your hips aren't going to function well, so they're going to lock down, and then your knees are going to have to take over, and it doesn't go well. So these exercises that are kind of tricky today are really, really important. So worthwhile practice. Okay, you ready? Let's try with bent knees. So with our knees bent, how do we move our thighs forward and our thighs back? Notice I'm talking about the thighs, but what's happening to my tailbone? My tailbone is kind of pointed out behind me, and then my tailbone tries to point forward, right? It's like wagging our tail up and down, but I want you to think of doing it from your legs, okay? And then what would happen? Can you feel the difference of using your legs versus I'm going to arch my back, crunch my back? My pelvis is still doing the same thing, but I'm using these muscles, which is ultimately going to tear up my low back. I want my low back to relax. I want my legs to try to make this motion happen, okay? So this is pelvic rocks. There we go, forward and backward, okay? Shake your legs out. reassess. So maybe side to side was very important for you. Maybe front and back was very important for you. Maybe you can't tell the difference yet, and that's okay as well. All right, I'm feeling pretty darn stable. It feels really nice to me. Okay, so let's continue. When we take side to side motion and we add it to front and back motion, we get an entire circle. So that's what's next. Using straight legs again, our feet wide. And by the way, we're doing toes facing forward. So my feet, my second toes are pointed directly forward. I'm not turning out my legs, okay? So parallel. Let's use our legs to describe a circle. Yeah. So I'm moving, I'm pushing with my straight legs to make my pelvis travel front, side, back, and side. I'm holding my navel nice and still. Very good. If you want to feel the contrast, you can try to do that, there you go, like moving your back. That's a different game. I'm gonna hold still my upper torso. There you go. And drive with my legs. So the movement you see of my torso is just in response to where my pelvis is going as I hold my spine still. Good. Reverse the circles, please. There we go. You want to be aware of relaxing your tushy muscles because we're using the top of the legs to push with. See if you could make that happen. Good. And around and around and around. Awesome. Same thing with bent knees. So we bend our knees, right? And we use our legs to try to push our pelvis around. I want to minimize bending my back. I want to minimize changing the shape of my spine. There you go. And then reverse those circles. So you just think about this as lubricant for that hip joint, that ball and socket joint. We're wiggling it all around and we're allowing those to become much more smooth in their movements. Awesome. Now with that smoothness, bend your knees and come back up. Bend your knees and come back up. And this is just going to build a little bit of strength as we come to the end of this one little portion. Very good. You guys are doing great. Yeah. Okay. That was super cool. Okay, so the next thing we're going to practice, we will use our chair. We're going to do an exercise called, so we've done everything on two legs now. We rarely spend time, well, if you're moving, you're probably not on 2 feet, right? Because moving goes like this. This is 1 foot at a time. So my pelvis needs to know how to be stable when only one leg at a time is working. And we're going to start practicing that with this exercise called hip circles, okay? So again, use your hand, differentiate between your waist, that's navel. You feel the top of your pelvic bone. You slide down from there until we feel that bumpy thing on the side, which is really the top part of our femur, okay? This is not the part that's inside the socket, but it's part of the structure. Anyway, this is what we call our hip, not this. So touch your hip, and from standing evenly on 2 feet, can you, I'm holding on with my left hand, my right leg is going to slide forward until it's off the ground. The goal is to not collapse and pick up your leg. The goal is stay tall, don't let anything shift as you slide that leg forward. Once the leg is there, be aware where the leg meets the body, and we're going to make little circles. The goal is my pelvis is not moving. My opposite side is not moving. My torso is not moving. Only this leg is moving. Yes. And it will be freer. It will be more free the more stable I am, which requires some strength on my opposite side hip. Yes? Okay. I'm going to turn around so you can see it from the back side. There's our hand on the chair. I've found my hip. I'm stable on 2 legs, and I do my best to slide this leg forward without shifting too far over or collapsing. You notice I about fell. This is challenging to not collapse on the standing leg. Once we're there, we circle the leg from where it meets the body. Good. And I am trying to stabilize my pelvis, to stabilize my torso, and really only let this leg do the moving, but most of the work I'm feeling on my standing side. Yes. And release. Good. Shake that out. Good. These are very powerful and potent exercises, by the way. Just do a few, and you will really notice where we have opportunity to improve. To the side now. So I'm going to stand facing the chair. I'm standing on 2 feet, and we want to swing our leg straight to the side. Now, let's do this set with our toes pointed straight forward. It's easy as we swing our leg to let our foot rotate and turn out. I want you to keep it turned parallel. So from the front view, here we are. Okay, my leg should be directly to the side, not forward, not back. Once it's there, I identify where my hip is. Did you accidentally hike up this whole side of your pelvis? Let's see if we can, try that again. Shake it out, leave your pelvis still, move just your leg. Once it's there, we try to make some circles. So I'm trying to maintain stable pelvis, stable leg, stable torso, and free this one up to go in circles. What I notice immediately is I have some butt muscles back here. That's part of my hip chain, and they really don't like doing that work. It's one of my weak areas, one of my not as strong areas. Shake it out, let's do the other side. I'll show you from the side this time. Okay, stand on 2 feet, stabilize, find the hip, slide the leg out. Check and see, did you collapse into your standing leg? Are you still pulled up? And then from that, is my toe still pointing forward? This leg is parallel, not turned out, parallel. And then we try to circle from that point where the leg meets the body. Yep. Oh, good to watch yourself on video to check and see if it's working or not. Again, this is one of my kryptonite areas. Had to work on it my entire life, but you know what? Shake it out. Even though my body only wants to do about 6 or 8 of those, if I do them, I can do really fun things. This body is stronger climbing mountains and hiking and swimming than it ever was, and it's more comfortable doing it because I'm willing to show you my not so good spots. Okay? All right, shall we try the back one? We've done the front, we've done the side. Let's try leg to the back. Okay, ready? We're tall. We're gonna try to hold that pelvis still. That pelvis often wants to tip forward and my chest goes forward. I wanna try to stay still and just see if I can move just the thigh. It lights up in the tushy, and then I'm going to try to circle that leg behind me. So again, this is where you will notice I actually have glute muscles, and they will scream at you if you're not used to using them. And a lot of this, it's really hard to get our leg there because we're so locked down here in the front part of our hips. So that's why when it locks down, the only way I can go is if my pelvis tips. So I want you to really fight for the strength to hold your pelvis so you can get that woken up back there. Shall we do the other leg? Stabilize, slide your leg back, and then find those glutes. Did your pelvis stay? Good. It's gonna light up. Maybe even in the upper hamstrings, you're gonna feel it as you try to circle that leg and stabilize. Oh, 3, 2, 1. Shake that out. Guess making us work hard today. All right, come back, reassess. Reassess, maybe shake your legs out, make sure you're not too tired. Give it a minute to recover, and then come back. Holy cow. Absence of movement. It feels peaceful. Good. A lot of times progress toward peace is when we have something where the chaos is missing, the difficulty is missing. Yeah, so be aware of that. All right, we're gonna finish with one more exercise, which is super powerful. I have another prop here. This is just a yoga block. For those of you who are familiar with yoga classes, these are easy to get. It's called a yoga block, okay? The cool thing is you can put it on different sides, okay? You can orient this all different ways. I'm just putting it in this flat position. And this is something that's gonna help us with a movement that is very often lost. So what we're gonna do is place one foot on the block. We're gonna use our chair for balance or whatever we have, and we're gonna step up on that block. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna let our free hanging leg drop closer to the floor, and this is a motion where our pelvis is tilting. Perhaps I need to face forward. Let's see if I can hold on to the sides, you can see. So as I drop one side down, my foot gets closer to the floor, my pelvis is now at an angle, my hip has dropped out to the side. That needs to be something we can do. And then what I'd like for us to do is push down into the block until our pelvis becomes level again. Until it becomes level again. So my feet are now closer to level down there. I drop my foot to the floor. I'm not bending my standing leg. This stays straight. I'm letting my hip swing out to the side. And then I push down through the block. It's actually the pelvic floor that we're lifting back into a level position. I am not picking up on this opposite side. I'm pushing down to bring the pelvic floor level. So dropping and pushing. By the way, this one little additional exercise and being able to find this motion, whew, man, huge effect on our low back and low back pain. A lot of people, if we skip this exercise, we make very little gains toward helping them with their low back pain. Let's switch sides, please. But once we add this back in, or their body is ready for it, because it does require some stability in the pelvis, but it also helps create it. But this is when their back pain really started to improve. So that's pretty fun. Standing on the block, drop the free leg toward the floor, which is dropping that side of the pelvis, but it's also letting this hip slide out to the side. And then we push down on the block to bring that pelvic floor back to a level position. We drop. Now, some of you are like, I can't drop because you might be living here anyway. And so the effort to push on the block and bring that back, you'll notice it takes a lot of effort because we're not used to it. We're building the stability of our pelvis again. And let's do a few more of those. Hip fall and push you back through. Amazing. How are you guys out there doing? All of our live participants. Yay! Good. Again, I'm so apologize that we weren't able to give you a class from Hawaii. That would have been really cool. But Pele said no. And one more time, push it through. See if you can stabilize that and hold it, and something might be burning. Yeah, that's the muscles that we need to use. Good, step it down, shake everything out. Whoo-wee. Shall we do our final reassessment for today? All right, let's find that balance pad, because I know it's about 2 months later from when we first recorded the class, and you now have your balance pad, right? Okay, close your eyes, see what's going on. Wow. Now, some of you might notice that stability has increased around your pelvis and that your feet, you're recognizing that your feet are working harder, which is great, because we do want our feet to be the first line of defense in our balance. My feet are actually relaxing a lot right now, and I'm stable and I feel really good. And I just have you guys to thank for coming into this class and doing this right along with us. Holy cow. So there you go. That is a little lesson with some really powerful exercises to work on the lower torso. It's the 18th of the month. Let's see, 18 plus 14, that's 32. Okay, so sounds like next, oh good, somebody does this every day. Awesome. And I think that this person is also gets to go to their Zumba class. So there might be some extra motivation to be able to enjoy Zumba class with the stable pelvis. I bet that makes it a little bit easier, a little more comfortable. That would be a guess. I don't know, but thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So I hope that you guys will enjoy this. It's next week should be the last Tuesday of this month. So that means we're going to be on the floor exploring the lower torso stability. And what that means is we're on our way to what they call Pilates. This is the foundational components that underlie a really great Pilates practice. So again, if you are somebody who loves to do Pilates exercises, yoga class, if you will use your joyful joints and stabilize, get yourself working, you will get so much more out of that practice. You'll get a whole lot more bang for your buck going in there and getting those exercises done. All right, love you guys. Enjoy this nice, strong pelvic stability. Maybe if the weather's nice, get out for a walk today, see what it feels like, and we will look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Ciao.